I want to write a series of historical romance novels, all centered around a Black-owned, Black-run hospital set in 1919, which is the year that my uncle was born. I know and admit that this is a huge challenge, a huge undertaking. So I have decided to look at the words and the wisdom and the writing of Beverly Jenkins, who is a historical Black romance writer, unprecedented in her works and in her accomplishments. This desire to write historical romances surrounding Black hospitals and the Black medical community has been with me for a very long time. I remember as a little girl, I received my first pair of glasses from Frederick Douglass Hospital in Philadelphia. And that experience, that moment, has stayed with me my whole life. I would like to further share that this hospital was located on Woodland Avenue in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and I believe it was around the 45th or maybe the 50th of Woodland Avenue. I'd have to check my notes and my facts to verify this, but it was somewhere in that vicinity. And as a teenager, I, along with my brother's best friend, came across this hospital which had been abandoned over the years. And this friend would sneak into the hospital and look at the different laboratories and the different places in the hospital. And of course, he took me along with him. And I was afraid at first to venture inside an abandoned hospital. But I found the experience to be one that I will never forget. The takeaway from that moment was immeasurable in terms of how it made me feel and how it has shaped and affected my life over the years. I understand that at the age of 59, and I will be 60 this year, that I am running out of time. I need to find a way to work full-time as a writer and to retire early from my job. So I'm working on that. I'm trying to figure out how to do it because I want to spend my last years, whether it be 50 years from now. My father is 95, so longevity definitely runs in my family. But I want to spend all that time writing novels that will affect and change people's lives, writing novels that I find are important, and spending time with my family and my friends, and hopefully at some point in my life, my grandchildren, and God willing, my great-grandchildren. So I have a lot of ideas. I have a lot of dreams. I have a lot of things that I want to accomplish. And if I could further add, I know this is reaching, but I want to get a degree from a Black college or university. That has always been my dream. And why not? In this world where you can do almost anything, that is a goal that I truly want to accomplish. But back to the subject at hand, which is writing the historical romance. I have turned to Beverly Jenkins, and in the book, How to Write a Romance for the New Market and Get It Published, written by Catherine Falk, I am focusing on the chapter entitled Writing the Historical Multicultural Romance by Beverly Jenkins. And these are some of her words of wisdom. And I quote, 10 years ago, the number of romances targeted towards minority readers was nil. Publishers had not yet awakened to the fact that minority women, particularly Black women, were a potent force in the book buying market. Then, the unprecedented bestseller success of Terry McMillan's Waiting to Exhale effectively killed the myth that Black women did not buy books. As a result, publishers began looking for ways to tap into this juggernaut. The summer of 1994 is often referred to as the summer of Black romance, for it was then that BET's Books introduced its new Arabesque line, contemporary romances written by Black women, primarily for Black romance readers. The novels were immediately embraced. EBooks also entered the minority market that summer with the release of its first African American historical romance, my first published novel, Night Song. These new romances were met with much fanfare, and a flood of Black romances followed. Almost overnight, minority women not only had stories that reflected their own culture, but also, for the first time, they were afforded the opportunity to pen their own. The author Beverly Jenkins further goes on to say, there's been a lot of debate as to whether multicultural romances can and should be written by authors outside the culture. I have no plans to weigh in on either side, but my advice for anyone attempting multicultural romance for the first time is to please know the culture you plan to write about. Some writers believe changing eye color is all that is necessary. Wrong. If that's your only ethnic touch, readers will be able to tell right away how familiar/unfamiliar you are with their culture and will judge you accordingly. There is no way I could have written or even attempted to write a book such as Amy Tan's The Joy Luck Club, because I know nothing about the rhymes and influences which shaped the life of the Asian American author and her family. All writers thinking of entering this subgenre need to ask themselves if what they know about any culture is based upon an intimate knowledge or on the very misguided stereotypes offered to us by media. In order to write African American historicals, extensive research is absolutely necessary. Blacks were more than just slaves. They fought bravely in all of the nation's wars, from the American Revolution to the Gulf War. Black men were whalers, explorers, and outlaws. They mined gold in California in 1849 and helped open the West. Black women owned businesses before and after slavery, taught school, and in 1832, a Black woman named Maria W. Stewart stepped up and became the first American woman to ever lecture before a gender-mixed audience. Beverly Jenkins suggests that if you're not sure where to begin your research, here are some books that you should consider. Before the Mayflower by Lerone Bennett Jr., Black, Red, and Deadly by Art Burton, The Black West by William Loren Katz, and The Black Press, edited by Martin E. Dan, and also We Are Your Sisters, edited by Dorothy Sterling. I would also like to make a couple of suggestions. One, check out your local libraries and look at the archive sections. Look at old newspapers, papers that were published in 1919, papers that were published in the 1950s, papers that were published in whichever period you're interested in researching. Also, check out biographies and autobiographies, such as The Autobiography of an Ex-Colored Man, or The Journal of the Negro History. Beverly Jenkins also mentions, when talking about characters, that there are 3 principles that you should keep in mind. Your characters should have a strong work ethic, a commitment to community through social activism. Your characters should push the boundaries when it comes to race and gender.